Hello and welcome to week 5 of the FrankenScrap Crochet Along, and this week we're making 2 pieces. So these 2 are both relatively small and should work up quite quickly each, and we're going to start with the checkerboard stitch. This stitch is just changing colours every few stitches to make this lovely checkerboard pattern. To start this stitch, you're going to make a foundation chain of 32.
Okay, so to start your checkerboard, we're going to be making a double crochet in the 4th chain from your hook. Your turning chain is going to count as your first stitch of the row. So I've marked that first stitch with a stitch marker. So your turning chain counts as your first stitch, and then we've just made our second stitch. So we're going to make a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches as well. So your first block of the row is going to be made up of 5 double crochet. That includes the turning chain, but the blocks for the rest of the row will only be a 4, and then the final block of the row will be a 5, and that's just to make sure our stitch count comes out the way we need it. So I didn't need to make a full one. Right, so on your 5th double crochet, so turning chain is the first, I just made the 5th, leave the last 2 loops on your hook because we're going to change colour. So the checkerboard stitch, it's just changing colours every few stitches to create the pattern of blocks, and that's all it is. So it's a very flat stitch, and if you don't change colour you don't get blocks. Simple as that. It's all entirely made with colour changes. Okay, so I've changed colour in the last 2 loops, but I'm going to keep my blue attached, and I'm going to be working over the top of that yarn so we can carry it to the next colour change. So in the next stitch, working over the carried yarn, make another double crochet, and then double crochet in the next 3 stitches, working over that carried yarn that we're not using right now in every stitch. 3, and this is number 4. Leave the last 2 loops on your hook because I'm going to change colour again. So before I change colour, I just make sure that carried colour is nice and taut, but we don't want it to ripple, so just make sure it's tight but not too tight. And then bring it up. I'm going to keep my carried yarn at the back and then pull through those 2 loops, and then just give everything a little tug to get it into place. So it should look something like that. And then we do the same again. I'm going to do another 4 double crochet, working over the top of that carried yarn. And we're going to repeat this across the row. 2, 3, and 4, but I'm going to leave the last 2 loops on my hook for the 4th double crochet so we can change colour. Drop the yarn you've been working with, pick up the carried yarn, just give it a little tug to make sure it's taut, but I'll just give it a little tug back here just to make sure it's not too tight, and then change colour, make sure those loops are tight, and then carry on with a new colour change. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Leave the last 2 loops on my hook for the 4th double crochet so I can change colour. Drop that, pick up the next one, give it a little tug in all the right places, and then pull through. And so you just carry that on across the row. Okay, so you're going to have colour changes like this. You will see your carried yarn a little bit. Okay, so the tighter your stitches are, the less you'll see this. And so it's quite common with the checkerboard to use a hook smaller than the yarn recommends, because if you can get those stitches nice and tight together, you will see the carried yarn less. But it's perfectly normal to be able to see it. Okay, so you carry that on across the row until you get to your last 5 stitches. And then in the last 5 stitches, you're just going to make a double crochet over the top. Okay, so your blocks in between your first and last blocks will only have 4 double crochet. Your first and last blocks will have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and last stitch, and 5. Now, I'm not changing colour in the last 2 loops, because to make our blocks I need to make another set exactly the same colour changes. So I'm going to turn, oops, just lost my yarn, turn, chain 1, but I do want to carry this second colour as well, so I'm going to carry it up the side there. So make a double crochet turning chain in your first stitch, making sure you work over the top of that other colour, because if we don't carry it here, what's going to happen is it's going to kind of drag across the back, and so the only way this stays hidden if it's done at the side, and then carry over. So we're making 5 double crochet because it's our first block of the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to start the 5th double crochet. So I'm going to do the last 2 loops on my hook and change colour. So row 2 is essentially a repeat of row 1 because we want those same colour changes to make that square block. Okay, and we keep repeating this across the row. Exactly the same. So now we're into one of the middle blocks. We're only making 4 double crochet in this colour. 1, 2, 3, and start the 4th, the last 2 loops on your hook. Make sure your yarn is pulled tight, but not too tight, and make that colour change. Bring that forward and work over the top, and continue all the way down the row. The only problem with this, with all these colour changes, is that your yarn can get quite tangled with each other, so that's why I keep yanking my yarns, because they're just starting to get a little bit tangled. So it's a good idea to stop every now and again and just make sure that your yarn gets unwound. Okay, colour change again. And then just keep working over the top of that carried yarn. 1, 2, 3, and 4. These last 2 loops on your hook, give everything a tug. Once you get into this, it works up really quickly. It's just getting used to those colour changes. Okay, so last block of the row. Okay. Remember, it's 5 double crochet for this one because we're at the end. And this time we are going to change colour in the last 2 loops of the row, because for the next row we need to change to the opposite colours of which you've just been doing. So leave the last 2 loops on your hook, bring up that next colour. So you can see we've now got square blocks, and now we need to have the alternating colours. So chain 1, make sure you bring up the other yarn so that you're working over the top of it, and make a double crochet turning chain in the first stitch of your row. So we're using the exact same pattern, it's just that we've changed colours. So your repeats is change colours every few blocks as we've been doing, and you change colour at the end of the row every 2 rows. So you're going to have 2 rows looking like this, and then we're going to have 2 rows where I've got this different colour in each block. And your checkerboard has 6 rows in total. But it all depends on where you put those colour changes as to how different it looks. So just make sure you change colours in the right after the end of the right rows.
To complete your checkerboard stitch, you're going to be making 6 rows in total. So you'll have 3 sets of squares going up your piece. Once you've finished that, you can cut off and tie in your ends. And then we're going to get started on our next piece, which is the even berry piece. Now the even berry, it makes these lovely cute little bubbles of a different texture to usual. And for this one, you're going to start with a foundation chain of 82. So it's going to be a nice long piece for this.
So the turning chain counts as your first stitch. So in the 3rd chain from your hook, you're going to make a single crochet. 1, 2, 3. And then that turning chain counts as your first stitch. So the single crochet we just made is the 2nd stitch of this row. And then for row 1, all we're going to do is single crochet in each stitch across. So this is a stitch that has a 2-row repeat. So we'll get row 1 underway, and the repeats will be for rows 2 and 3. And the last one. And then turn. And so in row 2 we're going to start making our berries. So once you've turned, you're going to chain 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And then in the first stitch we're going to make a single crochet. So this is our first stitch of the row. I'm just going to mark that. Okay, so in our next stitch we're going to make a berry. So we're going to yarn over, insert a hook into the next stitch, and we're going to pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 1 loop only. So leave 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook into the same stitch we just worked into, yarn over, pull up a loop. Okay, so we've got 5 loops on a hook, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. And that is your berry. And then in the next stitch we're going to make a slip stitch and just pull through that. And so the berry will pop out on the other side. So it'll stay flat on the side we're working on now, but it's going to pop out as a little berry on the opposite side. And this row is a 2-stitch repeat. So it's berry, slip stitch, berry, slip stitch. So now we've made our slip stitch, we make another berry. Yarn over and insert your hook into the next stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 1 loop only, so you still have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert your hook back into the same stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 5 loops on your hook. Then yarn over, pull through all 5 loops. And that's your berry. And then into the next stitch we're going to make a slip stitch. Try and keep your slip stitches a bit loose because we will be working into them in the next row. It'll just make them a little bit easier to work into if you don't make them too tight. So after our slip stitch, another berry, yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 1 loop only, so you still have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and insert your hook into the same stitch we just worked into, yarn over, pull up a loop, 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 5 loops, then slip stitch into the next stitch, keeping that loose. We don't want too hard a time when working into the next stitch. Okay, the next stitch is a berry, so same again. And then once you've got all the 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through, slip stitch into the next stitch, and then we're going to make 1 more berry. So we have 2 stitches left. We're going to make a berry and then we'll make our final stitch of the row. Okay, and that last stitch is going to be a single crochet, and that's into the top of the turning chain. Can be a little bit tight, and a single crochet to finish the row. Okay, and then we turn, and now you can see all those little berries nicely popped out. Okay, so row 3. After we turn, we chain 1. This does not count as a stitch. In the first stitch of the row, make a single crochet, and this counts as your first stitch, so I'm going to mark that so we don't lose it. Get in there. And now we're going to single crochet in every stitch across. So we single crochet in the top of the berries and the slip stitches, which is why we needed to keep them a bit looser to make it easier to work into. And just single crochet into the top of every stitch. And all the way to the end of the row. And there we go. That's the even berry stitch, and you repeat rows 2 and 3 until you reach the height that you want.
To complete your even berry stitch, you're going to be making 9 rows in total. Once you finish row 9, you can cut off and weave in your ends, and then you need to join both of these pieces onto week 4. So to see where these pieces go, you need to click on the link beneath this video and check out the layout and where each piece needs to go. Once you've joined the pieces, that's week 5 complete. So thank you for joining us, and I shall see you next time for week 6. But don't forget to come over to the Facebook group, Froggity Frogs Ribbit and Stitch, and show us your squares, your pieces, and we're there to answer any questions you might have. See you soon!